Hi guys, this is Wade from Wade's Orchids here. I'd like to talk a little bit about Pleurothallids. Now I know that some of you have difficulty growing these things because it's just too much cool demanding for you guys, and they do need to cool down, almost all of them, at least at night, ideally into the 50s and lower 60s, but there's a lot of things that you can do to help with that. I'll get into that a little bit later. Right now I'd like to just show you a few of the things that I have here. A few of them are in bloom right now. This is Pleurothallis Raleigh I. Let me see if I could get this up close for you. Get a good look at the flowers. They're very dark purple. This is variety Walder. I got this as a 2-leaf division, and fortunately it grew on. That just gives you an idea of, if you give them the proper conditions, they can be very, very easy to grow, and they grow rather quickly. That 2-leaf division was about a year ago, and here we are, and it's putting out a flower. This is another one. This is a real cool grower. This is Stelis Morgana, or no, not Morgani. I'm sorry, I have to look. This is Stelis Adrienne, and it also has nice dark colored flowers, dark purple. I've got 4 spikes coming on this. It's a beautiful plant. The undersides of the leaves are dark purple, and that is also evidenced a bit on the top. Absolutely beautiful, even when out of bloom. Couple other things. Of course, Mastiffa are members of the Pleurothallids. This is Mastiffa Trevally I, and this is flowering very, very nicely right now. This is a flowering time for it. It's early November, and it's doing very nicely. This is also very fragrant, just a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. If you would like to add a Pleurothallid species to your collection, this is a very nice one to get. It is also moderately warmth tolerant, so it's a really good one to look at. And one other thing that's in flower here, this is Dracula low tax. See if I can get this here. Low tax is known as the monkey face orchid, or one of that, but that's typical of most Draculas. You have that little monkey face in it. This particular Dracula is a very warmth tolerant one, and it still likes getting into the 60s at night, but it likes very high humidity, and it likes to be kept moist all the time. And it had quite a few flowers on it this year. Really nice thing to have. It is not, contrary to some things that people may tell you, this does have its own difficulties. It can be just plain fussy. Okay, but when it starts going well, it can go very, very nicely and add to a nice collection. The flowers last quite a while. Another Mastiffa here that is coming into flower. I'll hold this. This is mounted. This is Mastiffa floribunda. Blooms for me twice a year. I wanted to show you that you can grow these things mounted. If you do, you notice it has a nice padding of moss on it, and it gets watered nearly every day. So let's see, one or two other things just to show you a couple more mounted plants. This is a warmth, very warmth tolerant Pleurothallis. This is Florathalis costaricensis, and it flowers through the summer, through the warmer months, about every 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a very, very easy to grow, easy to flower plant. Most of the time I grow it potted, but I wanted to try mounting one, and it's doing fine. Something else, another Pleurothallid that you might have heard of. This is Florathalis Tribulus, and it puts out little orange. They call it a lobster claw orchid because the flowers are like a burnt orange, and they open up and they look like little claws. So a nice little thing to have, and this will bloom through the warmer months, almost always in bloom. Really nice thing. So I'd like to get into the culture of these a little bit, show you how to grow them, how to deal with their lack of warmth tolerance. One of the main things you can do is, you notice that these are growing in clay pots. I wish I could tell you how cold this clay pot feels. And if the roots are cool, then the plant will do much better, even if the upper parts of the plant are a bit warmer. But I would say this pot right here is, oh geez, about maybe 10 degrees cooler than the ambient temperature. And that's from evaporative cooling. This is potted in sphagnum moss, and the moisture is transferred very easily to the terracotta and is evaporated very well. It has got very good drainage. You can't see it in here, but I think I have lava rock in here. But everything that I put in with pure sphagnum moss, I make sure that it has excellent drainage, so it's never soggy. Okay, that's one of the secrets to having something in here and having it in here for a long period of time. If the sphagnum moss never gets truly soggy, it will last much longer, especially if you use good quality sphagnum moss. That's very important. You don't have to use sphagnum. I do this for a couple of reasons. One of them, even in my greenhouse here, during the summer months, this helps to keep the plant cooler. A lot of these things, well, you saw mounted ones. The Mastiffa here is potted in fine fir bark and perlite, and I put just a little bit of sphagnum in it. It also has, I don't know if I can hold this so you can see it, but I can see it. There is pieces of styrofoam peanut in the bottom of here, and also you might be able to tell that I like buying pots that have got a lot of drainage holes in it. So we have excellent drainage in all cases. That's something that's important. Also important, especially with the more cool grower plants, this is almost all cool growing plants, is that you want to use pure water. They appreciate that. The Mastiffa almost demand it. So do the Draculas. Pure plants, as they grow up in elevation, the water becomes more and more pure, and they are very used to that. And some are very intolerant of having water that is not pure, that has high mineral content. So we want to make sure that we use something like rainwater, reverse osmosis. There is a filter called Zero Water that actually removes virtually all minerals and contaminants. That does very well. So just have that in mind. Now, something that I did this before I started filming here is I noticed that at the base of my Pleurothallids Raleigh I saw some roots on the surface, which is uncommon. These almost always put all the roots out below the surface, but I'm going to hold this up. I hope you can see this. Right here is the original leaf, and this put out a kiki at the leaf axil, okay, which is where the leaf meets the stem, okay. Excuse me there. And we've got 3 new leaves coming out here and a moderate number of roots. So what I'm going to do to get this going well is I'm going to use a little 2-inch pot here, and excuse me while I get some styrofoam peanuts. We won't need many here. There we go. Styrofoam peanuts. Make sure you don't get the ones that are made with potatoes because they melt right away. So in a little pot like this, I'll usually, oh come on, got a lot of static here. I usually break them up a little bit. So I use actually like 1.5 peanuts there. So we've got our peanuts in there, and I'm going to just take sphagnum moss, and I always look, there's usually a little bit of sticks or things in here, but so we have a nice little clump of sphagnum moss. I'm going to sit it in there and just work around it so those roots are fairly well covered, and put it in the pot here. This is not potted extremely firmly. It's got a lot of spring to it. I could push it down a lot more if I wanted to, but I don't want it packed in there because that also will help to keep it from getting soggy. Especially, this is a plastic pot, so, and there's very few roots. So I did make up a label ahead of time for this. Make sure you label all your plants. Okay. Another way to propagate your plants here is this is a little Stelis here. It's getting ready. It's in flower actually. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it puts out nice little ice green flowers. Stelis flowers are always triangular in shape because the flowers are composed mostly of the sepals, as is with most Pleurothallids. Most of what you see are the sepals. The petals are almost always what they call diminutive, and sometimes it's very difficult to see it all. But I want to show you here what has happened is here's another kiki that is grown, okay, and this is very well developed. So I'm going to try to take this apart here. It's on there pretty good. Boy, it's really on there. There we go. Okay, so we have that. See if I can find which one of these leaves was the original one. Might have been this one. It's not that important, but this grew from a leaf cutting here, which was still attached to the plant and made a nice kiki. This I will also pot up. Something else that you can do is I'm going to do this on this plant here, this Stelis adrii. Get a nice leaf here, and I might have to cut it off here. Let me get my scissors. I'm sorry I can't show this to you up close very well, but I'm just going to go down here as far as I can, as close to the base, and here we go, cut it off. Now we can try stripping some of there's like a dried sheaths that go around here, but if you can see right there is see if I can hold that. I can't see my camera's doing very well, but right there is the juncture between the stem and where the leaf starts. So I might trim this up a little bit. I'm going to trim it to about right there, so I can get that down into the sphagnum moss. Okay, so we'll just trim that off a little bit more. There we go. And I will get another pot and the remainder of my little styrofoam peanuts. Put them in there. Okay, and again, the sphagnum moss. Actually, what I can do in this case is I can put the moss in and then put the leaf cutting in. And again, I don't put this in real tight. There, you could see this has a lot of bounce to it yet. Okay. This moss is moistened, and I'll take this and there we go. Just take it, put it down there, just like that. Now this takes a while, but you will get usually another plant from it. It helps to keep the if you're growing in the home and trying this, you may want to put like a baggie very loosely around it to keep the humidity very high, because right now the heater came on, but this is very subject to drying out because it has no way to get any water up into the leaf because it has no roots. So we want to keep this very humid so that not much moisture is transpired. I'm going to actually stop this for a little bit until the heater stops. Okay, we're back. I hope you can hear me better now. Right now, what I want to do is show you that, or explain to you rather, that a lot of these, you may be able to see it on here, but when you get an established plant that is getting to be good size, you might be able to tell that it kind of separates itself into like clumps, and that makes it very easy to divide when you decide to divide something like that. But you can also take plants that this is easily big enough to divide if you would like to do it. And you could just break it apart at the base. It's usually not too difficult to do it. And then, pot each one up. I want to show you how I pot up a mature division, although I don't have any right here to show you. This is my seedling mix here, which is 3 parts bark, 1 part perlite. I screen the perlite, it's number 2 perlite, and I usually just take a piece of aluminum screen and put the perlite on there and shake it back and forth and get what's called the fines out of it. And then I keep this moistened a little bit, and what I do is I will start out with, I'll use a little bit bigger pot to show you. I'll take my pot and put in styrofoam peanuts, enough to cover the pot. And then what I will do is I'll put in a small amount of the bark, and then get the pot, or plant rather, and center it in, and then fill in around it with more of this. I almost never use anything larger than the seedling grade bark, even in a larger plant. And I encourage you again to, if you are using, if you're growing it in a place that stays moderately warm, to strongly consider using a clay pot, and use some, yeah, I can't think of it. I'm sorry. You use some trays with rough stones in. I use natural aquarium gravel, the larger size aquarium gravel. It's about a 1/4 inch. Leica beads work also very well. You put it in, keep the water about halfway up the gravel or Leica beads. That allows the gravel to absorb or take the water into its surface and wick it up to cover it and help to evaporate it much more quickly. And you will get evaporation, which cools the area around that, provides more humidity, both of which you need to grow these successfully. So I hope this has helped you out. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. Anything at all. These are wonderful plants if you can grow them. They are very rewarding. Most of these things bloom more than once a year, and just really nice things. So this is Wade from Wade's Orchids. Hope I was able to show you a few new things today. Have a good day. Bye-bye.